Hey guys, welcome to Juicy Tea, where I read out the best stories on Reddit, so you don't have to. The funny, the shocking, the satisfyingly juicy. Today we're back on the Am I the A-hole subreddit, and as usual, I'll give you my take on each post, but obviously it's just my opinion. If you disagree with me, please feel free to let me know. I always love hearing your takes on these stories. Yes, even when you disagree. Isn't that the whole fun of reading these stories? Am I the a-hole for turning up at the house that my partner's car was at when he told me that he was going to be somewhere else? Post by Acceptable Tap 25. Me and this man had been together for just over 3 years. I suspected nothing. He told me he was going over to one of his guy friend's houses, a guy friend who I knew and whose house I knew. He left, and around 2 hours later, my friend texted me saying, "Who does partner know who lives on X Street?" I said, "As far as I'm aware, no one. Why?" She told me his car was parked in the driveway of a house on a certain street in our town. So he clearly wasn't at his friend's house. I don't know if this is psycho behaviour, but I asked her for the address and I went over there. I don't know why I didn't text him first or something to see if he'd lie. Maybe he and his friend just went over to another person's house. But as soon as my friend said that, I just got into my car and went to see if it was really his car. It was. I sat down on the street and then texted him asking if he was having a good time. He messaged back immediately and said that he was, and that he and his friend were building his new PC together. So I instantly knew that he was lying. I went over to the house and knocked on the door. A woman answered. I have no idea who she was, but I could tell by the way her face dropped that she knew exactly who I was. I kept it together and just said, "Tell him his stuff will be on my front lawn when he wants to come and get it," and then I left. Another hour passed and he came home while I was gathering up his things. He had the nerve to instantly go off on me, telling me that going there was psycho and that I was crazy for pulling that stunt. I didn't say anything, I just carried on gathering up his things. He kept telling me to stop, and I didn't. He got in front of me and said, "Stop!" That's when I lost it. I shoved him away from me and started crying. I told him to get his stuff and get out. I then locked myself in my office and waited for him to leave. This happened last night. Some of his things are still here. He didn't take much. Seems he just took a bunch of his clothes and his toiletries. I haven't heard from him, and I haven't texted him either. But was I the a-hole for turning up to this house that he was at? Of course not. He's just a classic cheater trying to turn everything around on you. The best comment, whatever he left, lightly spray it with milk. Just a fine mist over all his stuff. Box it up and have him come get it. You weren't crazy for showing up. He lied to you and got caught. End of story. You wouldn't have shown up if he wasn't lying and sneaking around. Am I the a-hole for not skipping a work trip because my husband is recovering from a hair transplant? Post by Keyboot964. My husband flew overseas for a hair transplant. We have 2 children under 7. I work full-time in a stressful corporate role. He never plans or researches in advance. I'm supposed to go on a work trip for a 2-day work planning retreat. It's important exposure. He will be post-op for 3 days by the time I leave. Last night he said that he needed me to cancel my trip because he's recovering from surgery. I need to put him first, and I'm going to be beyond mad if you do this to me, and don't put me first this one time I'm asking. And if I go, he won't take the kids to school. His head may be sore and bald, but it should not impede a pick-up and drop-off. My trip has been planned for about 6 months. His main gripe is that he doesn't want to be seen so close to the surgery. He didn't even need to choose this date, and up until yesterday, this was the plan. He told me my trip is stupid. I usually do put everyone else first, but I really don't think I need to stay home and miss something so important for this. And I also think it's selfish to be saying this to me. I'm always the one impacted by his last-minute changes and impulses. I am supportive of him doing something that makes him feel better about himself, but why should I miss out on my trip because he suddenly booked his surgery last minute? Am I being selfish, or is he being selfish? So, clearly not the a-hole. This wasn't an emergency surgery. He knew about your important work trip well in advance, and he was able to fly home from overseas by himself. But the real question is he just being a selfish baby? Or is this like kinda sus? why did he book this impromptu cosmetic surgery right before her essential work trip? Was he intentionally trying to sabotage it? Obviously, we don't have enough info from the post to know for sure, but what do you guys think? Is he being sus or is he being silly? Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my girlfriend on the spot and kicking her out? Post by Credana. I had been with my girlfriend for about a year and a half. We lived together. Things were going well. Or so I thought. Then, a few nights ago, she tells me she wants to talk. She sits me down and says she's been thinking about opening up the relationship. I asked her what she meant, and she straight up said that she wanted to see other people while still being with me. She said she loves me, but doesn't want to feel like she's missing out on life experiences. I told her that I'm not into that, never have been and never will be. She tried to keep talking about it, like maybe we could just try it for a little while. I told her if that's what she wants, then we're done. I helped her pack a bag and told her to stay at a friend's place for now. Now she's telling people that I kicked her out for having a conversation, and some mutuals are saying that I overreacted. A couple of them are calling me controlling and said I should have at least talked it through instead of just breaking up with her on the spot. Not the a-hole for breaking up on the spot, but he kicked her out immediately? Opie said they live together, so does she pay rent? Are they both on the lease? Even if both are no, still the a-hole and still illegal in most places. Somehow everyone keeps ignoring this fact and saying not the a-hole, but Opie is so the a-hole here that it's a literal crime. Don't blame me for dumping her, but gotta give people notice. Am I the a-hole for refusing to apologise to my dad's wife because she felt let down that I didn't make a grand gesture of embracing / accepting her at their wedding? Posted by Kadesh Lee. My mum died when I, 21 female, was 12. My dad met his wife when I was 15 and they got married when I was 16. Not gonna lie, the day was kinda hard for me. It wasn't easy seeing my dad marry someone who wasn't my mum. But I loved him, so I made sure to smile and keep the sadness away from the day where I could. Still, my dad knew, and he didn't push me to be more involved than I was. The wedding was small and low-key anyway, so there was nothing huge for me to do anyway. Up until a couple of weeks ago, everyone thought the day had been a success. But during a celebration to remember my mum, my dad's wife brought up a grudge that she'd held against me for not making more of a grand gesture of embracing / accepting her as part of the family and a mother figure at the wedding. Apparently she thought I'd planned something for the day that would make her feel welcome and wanted by me and like she was loved. She'd convinced herself this would happen and was let down that it hadn't, but even worse, that I didn't say anything to her about it after their wedding. She first brought it up as a throwaway comment about grand gestures for others not being my thing when I made something for my mother's grave. Dad asked her what she meant, but she was like, "Oh, nothing." She said nothing, and I was confused by it too, but we moved on. Then, when we were having dinner, those of us who knew Mum said something about her. I told Mum that I'd always love her and miss her, and I wish she was here and could see the woman I became. Then, Dad's wife made a more direct comment that clearly I can express my love easily enough. Dad asked what she was doing. She said what she'd expected for the wedding, and she was like, clearly Opie didn't love me when we got married because she didn't make a point of expressing or showing acceptance of me at the wedding. Then she said that she'd expected some kind of grand gesture of acceptance and love because she was becoming my new mother figure, and I thought I'd be glad to have someone else for the girl stuff. Dad asked where all this was coming from, and she had admitted that she'd held it against me since the wedding. Later, when it was just me and her, she told me I could apologise, and it would start to make up for it. I told her there should have been zero expectation for me to do anything like that, and I wasn't apologising for something I never agreed to, or even suggested I'd do. Then she was all like, "So, you still don't love me?" I grew frustrated and told her that she had way too high expectations for what I'd do for her, and I pointed out that I'd only known her for a few months when she married my dad. Her grudge has now grown because I didn't do the grand gesture, and I didn't apologise years later. She says I'm disrespecting her, and disrespecting her and my dad's marriage. Am I the a-hole? This isn't a thing. Isn't it more normal for someone marrying someone with kids for them to make the big gesture towards the kids, like including them in the wedding or making vows to the kids, etc. I've seen that, but I've never heard about it going the other way. What a weird expectation! You're the one adopting the kid, you weirdo! And doing all that during the mum's memorial celebration? What the hell? That's so disrespectful! Hope the dad shot this down. Doesn't sound like it though, or OP wouldn't seriously be asking if she's the a-hole. Anyways, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. Have an amazing rest of your day. Bye!